Ladies and gentlemen, Big Hairy News.
Hey, kia ora e te whānau. Welcome to another episode of Big Hairy News. Kia ora, Chewy.
Kia ora, Pat. How are we doing?
That was a long delay. Am I in delay to you, or are you just having a bit of a think while I was speaking?
I didn't think I was having a big think. Is there a big long delay?
It's a second or two. We can leave it. We'll see what happens.
Okay. All right. The internet did go spotty when you hit play, so I don't know if there's something on my end. We'll see how we go.
Yeah, probably the dog. Dog got into it, didn't she? I'm sure that's what it was. Okay, how is everybody tonight? We've got a guest tonight that we haven't previewed because I was talking with Dr. Grant Duncan earlier this afternoon about a conversation piece he wrote, which we were going to talk about. And I said to Grant, do you want to come on and talk about it? And Grant had an event on, and we were like, well, come on if you can. Don't worry about it too much if you can't. And it ends up that Grant is available. So exciting. Dr. Grant Duncan about to join us in a couple of minutes to talk about the article of his that we were going to talk about. So we don't have to say anything. And you don't have to read it, Julie, which I know makes everyone happier.
That's good. I've just finished Hungry Caterpillar, so I think I'm reading out.
Hey, huge thanks to all our patrons. Thank you so much for being a part of what we have been doing. Just to remind you, we threw out an arbitrary number of 100 patrons. We were looking to try and get an additional 100 patrons. I nearly said patients, it might be the same thing, by the end of this month. That would be about 2 months since the show started this year. And Cheerio, how to look tonight? 91.
Oh,
so that's pretty amazing. Now, we'll say this again, as we've said to you before. If you want to be a part of what we do, if you want to flick us a coffee each month, if you want to do something more substantial than that, we welcome your help. However, what's best for us is you doing something that you can afford. We would rather you join the $15 tier and stay all year than do the $35 tier and then realize you can't afford it. I only say this because we try and say it each time without being too kind of, beggy, pleady, because we've had a couple of lovely people join up during this time period and now withdraw because they realize it was too much. So we don't want you to put stress on yourselves. But we also, I just want to acknowledge it's easier for us if we know what's happening in 6 months. You all know we're already talking about Waitangi next year. And the way we plan 6 months out from Waitangi is to know what we're doing, especially with our patrons. So 91's amazing. Thank you so much for being a part of what we've been doing. Thank you so much for being us, for being with us, being part of the team. The other thing is just to remind you that the old shop is open. BHN shop is open. Me and the wife spent a few hours today in the lounge just through there, printing up shirts, getting ready to post them out and send them out. Of course, at the moment, the tax work less, tax wealth more is landing really well with a bunch of people. So well that we have actually sold out in some SKUs. I think the large black t-shirts are sold out for now. I think the extra large black t-shirts are sold out as well. And I think the large white t-shirts and extra large white t-shirts have only got a couple left. Now, don't panic. This one's going to be around, right? This one's not going anywhere. I know sometimes we do special drops and we just do them once. This one will stay around because we're hoping that some within the political sphere might take the hint about this upcoming to the next election in 18 months, he says quietly. So I will be probably wrapping some packages tomorrow, probably putting them on the courier on Friday. Apologies, didn't get to it a little bit sooner, but I made this pledge, Chewy, that we were going to give a free grassroots sticker to everyone. And I started to do some packing today, and I realized I had no grassroots stickers. So part of the work in the printing shop today was printing out a whole bunch of new grassroots stickers to put them in there, and also printed out some little testers for a lovely tax work, less tax wealth, more stickers as well. And they're looking very, very fly. Right. Have some fun stuff to share with you tonight as well. We are going to, if you were with us last night, you would have heard the conversation around David Seymour holding his lovely cone, and what some people, I mean, we never encouraged it, but how this could possibly turn into something else if he wasn't careful.
Like legally, we wouldn't encourage.
Nothing to do with us. But
like
Chewy, we had some, for want of a better word, entries into that. So we'll get to that maybe after we've chatted with Grant. But you people are very, very clever and very, very creative. And I've laughed lots today. One of the emails that was written about them said they thought it was a bit too cheeky, but the laughs from their mother watching them do it in the background urged them on. So it's
amazing.
It's pretty funny. Now, I haven't seen Discord, so maybe there's some on Discord that I haven't seen, Chewy. So maybe you could, when I show you mine, Chewy, maybe you can show me yours to see if there are any new ones out there as well.
That's pretty apt considering what's in Discord.
Destiny Church. Chewy, I have a huge apology to make to you about Destiny Church. I've been very generous to Destiny Church and sort of used specific words about people associated with Destiny, yada, yada, yada.
And what was my answer to that?
Your answer was, don't be a dick, Pat, I think was your technical term. I received a message, I think you did as well today, Chewy, with some footage that someone had screen grabbed from a Destiny Church, from a Brian Tamaki message. The message of the day after the Te Atatu library was stormed. And I use that word stormed because that was a word that Brian Tamaki chose to use when he told his people to go and crash into the library. Now, I'm not sort of giving it all away, because what I did was I then went and found that sermon. For the audio podcast, I'm doing air quotes because I don't think what he does is what a traditional religious person would call a sermon, more like a bullying lecture. And I found a whole bunch more in a space of about 10 minutes. So I've prepared a whole lot of footage from a 10-minute section of what he said. And my conclusion is, I don't know how he is not in the docks with those 7 people. It is so blatant. I don't know how he, Brian Tamaki, has not received a charge over this. So we will get to that through the evening, as well as some other bits and bobs as well. But right now, we want to welcome to the show an itinerant academic. It is Dr. Grant Duncan. Grant, hello, sir, and thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, guys, good to see you.
Of all the teasers we just put out there, what are you most excited about hearing about?
Of all the teasers?
Yeah, well, the things that we just said are coming up in the show. Any of those?
I think you should get a lawyer on and ask what kind of charges could be laid against Brian Tamaki for incitement or something like that. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but I'd be quite interested to see what sort of charges might hang there.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Whānau. I spoke to the Waitakere District Courts today because there's a strange part of the current ruling where their name suppression was declined, but because they then appealed it, there's like a interim period where they still can't release. And I said to the courts, and obviously the courts went, we're not offering you legal advice, by the way. But I said to the courts, I've gotten a whole bunch of footage off the Destiny Church website. This is me showing their footage. So in other words, it's me already putting out what they're putting out. And of course, I kind of knew what they were going to say. They said we would best advise that their names and stuff, or they have to still be kept secret. So there's one clip that I'm going to show where there's lots of blurriness and lots of beeping of names because I'm being a bit careful. So yes, so there is still things going on, Grant. Okay, let's talk about you, because you have written a really interesting piece in the conversation. I first saw this on One News's website, and they had a little addendum at the bottom. We get to use this because of our Creative Commons license. I do wonder sometimes about places that have a financial gain, a commercial entity making money off someone else's work for another site, because obviously that will drive their ad revenue. I saw it there, so that will drive their ad revenue online. That'll make them. I'm not entirely sure that that's fair, but that's where I found it. But we want to give credit to the conversation because that's where it came from.
Yeah, and just to be transparent too, I don't get paid for writing that. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think everyone on the conversation, they just write them and they don't get paid. There's not a paid part of it.
Well, most of them are, paid academics who are paid for their university jobs are able to contribute because they're in a university. Yeah. And the universities pay a subscription to the conversation to keep it going.
Yeah. Politically weakened or muddling through, Luxon and Hipkins ranked on their mid-term prospects. What you've done, and I'll just paraphrase, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Grant, is you've used a system called the Leadership Capital Index. I understand you haven't used it in its pure sense because normally there'd be a panel, but you've done it by yourself, and then you've kind of challenged people, the readers, you can be the panel and check my workings. But you've used this Leadership Capital Index to rank how these two guys are going in their leadership roles. Do you want to first just explain a bit about this way of scoring these guys, and then we might go into a little bit about what you scored them?
Sure. Yeah. So it's a dynamic thing that can change with time. In other words, we're not looking at personalities so much and saying, is this person a great leader or not? You can pick up books, about great leaders or whatever. Usually Winston Churchill's in there or someone like that. No, this isn't so much about the personality, although we do look at their skills to some extent. But it's more, leadership capital is thought of as something that kind of builds up as a career advances. It obviously will have some ups and downs. Eventually it declines as that person's career, political career comes to an end, and they're no longer really a viable candidate any longer. So it's very much about their performance and about public support, and about where they appear to be on that trajectory, which is kind of like a sort of inverted U shape, basically, with ups and downs along the way.
And as you say, it's dynamic. I imagine the two examples that come to mind are, Jacinda after the Christchurch shooting, and perhaps John Key after the earthquake. I imagine if at that moment, like the weeks after, someone had to put them through these, they'd be through the roof, because that would be a moment when the dynamic scoring for them would have been very, very positive, one would think.
Well, absolutely. So there's what they call a good crisis to have in terms of a political career. So the classic example would be for Margaret Thatcher, the Falkland Islands invasion, and her prime ministership really took off with that campaign.
Yeah, I think about 9/11 with George W. Bush as well. Up until the last election, he was the only Republican to win the popular vote since about 1992. Obviously, Trump won it this time around, and that was all based around the same sort of thing. 9/11 put him through the roof for a period of time. It's funny that so many of those things do happen, but then there always seems to be an inevitable drop-off. If you think about the 9/11 flow on, I guess Jacinda through COVID, and even maybe John Key, when people weren't getting their houses looked after like they could after they were still waiting for money. So I don't know if it's like a jet fuel powered honeymoon period, but it seems to crash as hard as well.
Well, exactly. Well, they often call it the rally around the flag effect, and it does tend to be very temporary because, of course, a crisis also comes with consequences. You don't, like with the earthquake, for instance, you don't easily satisfy people whose homes have been seriously damaged all that easily, and naturally that wears away at people's confidence in the leadership.
Maybe we could have a look at what this actually is. The LCIs have 10 factors. They're a mixture of the objective and subjective, adding up to an overall ranking of a leader's political capital on a 5-point scale. So the 5-point scale are depleted, i.e. a lame duck, low, which is politically weakened. And that terminology, weakened, does speak of a dynamic movement. They are weakened now. doesn't mean they'll always be weak. So they may were strong and now they're politically weakened. Medium would be muddling through. High would be momentum. Exceptional would be political weather maker. Now you've said neither Luxon nor Hipkins performed very well in the test you personally put them through. Luxon came out on the low capital range, so that would be that one, wouldn't it? Looking politically weakened, while Hipkins was muddling through on medium capital. I was wondering, this might be more opinion or maybe there's some research in it, at this term of a new prime minister, like I would think that for an opposition prime minister or opposition leader who's just lost an election after a year in, medium would be pretty bloody good, because that would normally be their anti-honeymoon period, while the prime minister would normally be riding high. So is there anything to say that actually medium for Chippy is not a bad result?
Well, you could argue that, yeah, because after all, he did lose the last election. And he's got a bit of time to rebuild some of that capital. But the danger, of course, is the historical example of Bill Rowling, that you just lose again to the same guy, and that pretty much finishes you. Now, I'm not saying that's not a prediction. I'm just saying that's a past example. So the danger is for both of them actually that they've peaked early and low. Some of the feedback that I've had from commenters is that I've, if anything, been a little bit generous to Luxon. But the problem that I found in using this index is that it doesn't perform very well when you have a complex coalition government.
Right.
So the questions are largely about the person's party leadership. And so I've ranked it more in terms of him as leader of the National Party. And that's a little bit, it's kind of hard to pass that from his performance as leader of a coalition government. And so some of the people who came back at me and said, you've been a bit generous to Luxon, haven't you? Were citing that as their reasoning. And that's fine. I've tried to take that into account with the last item on parliamentary performance. That's where I've brought the coalition, the complex coalition dynamics into play there. But so people felt, if anything, I'd been, and I mean, my commenters, by the way, often tend to be quite conservative older guys. Don't know why. That's my audience, it seems. I wish some of the younger ones would join in. But they tend to be the ones who will leap in and comment on me, and they tended to. So, if anything, they were saying you've been a bit generous to Luxon. But however, of course, Chippy, Chris Hipkins, in a sense, has a certain advantage at the moment that he doesn't have to manage a coalition right now.
Yeah.
And it's not hard to imagine that, there are some pretty attention-grabbing people in his potential coalition partners, and he could be suffering the same problem if he were Prime Minister next time round. We'll see.
Yeah. Chewy, do you want to, before I go on to the next kind of topic of this conversation, what do you want to jump in with?
I'm just finding this absolutely fascinating, because it's one thing for us to sort of sit there and go, he sucks, he's not very good at this. This is applying a whole scientific method to it, which I think is great.
Yeah. And when you say scientific, I mean in the sense that it's been done before. It's been used by other political scientists. As I've said outright, some of these judgments are, subjective or predictive kind of judgments, but some of the items, on the other hand, are based on data and polling data and stuff like that. So there's a mix of objective and subjective items here. But in the end, any assessment of leadership is always going to have a subjective element to it. We just have to own up to that. And this is at least an analytical framework that has been used, it's been tested and used by other political scientists. So I was happy to give it a shot.
So let's do this, Chewy, because what I'll do, Chewy, is we'll go through. I don't want to really spend a lot of time speaking about the scores per se, because that could be 20 minutes of just saying numbers. I exaggerate. But Chewy, what I'll do is I'll give you what the scores are for the areas, and if you've got any questions about them to Grant, thinking now that like the first category is political or policy vision, we now need to think about it, as you said, Grant, as the leader of the National Party, not the Prime Minister of the coalition. Yeah. So for political vision, you've given both leaders 4 out of 5. Now, 5 out of 5 is the best, 1 out of 5 is the worst. So Chewy, for both parties, political policy vision, 4 out of 5. Thoughts?
Oh,
It's hard not to think about him as the leader of the coalition. Like, it's hard to actually go, because that's what most of the news headlines are about. And a lot of his weaknesses are about the other guys running rings around him. So it's kind of hard to do.
Well, the other
yeah.
thing is
Look,
4 out of 5 on the scale just means clear and consistent.
Yep.
okay.
So there you go. 4 out of 5, clear and consistent. Because they're all different. So, for example, communication or performance, Luxon 2, which is poor, Hipkins 4 out of 5, which was good. That seems okay. Seems pretty fair. Because not brilliant.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, as an example there, Luxon's constant corpo speak and that sort of thing, whereas Chippy's a lot more, I guess, relatable and normal. He can string a sentence together.
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes sense to me.
And you've cited that Mike Hoskins, a nightmare for him. What about the personal poll ratings relative to the most recent election? So because Luxon's has gone down, Luxon, they both get 3 out of 5 because Luxon's gone down, which will be 3 out of 5 is moderate, gone a little bit down, and Labor's gone a little bit up.
No, this is personal poll rating. So I haven't made this terribly clear, perhaps. So this is based on preferred Prime Minister opinion polls before the election, immediately before the election, and where they are now.
Okay, and it's plus or minus 5%, 3 out of 5.
It's actually gone up a little bit in the last couple of polls. So they're both, in terms of preferred PM, they're both polling within plus or minus 5 of where they were before the last election.
So that's not opinion as well. That's when you say you've run the numbers, that's easily trackable.
You can track that. And of course, it's based on polls around now. So if you were listening to this in a month's time, the polls might have changed. So do you see? Yeah. Yeah,
gotcha. And that's the same as longevity time in office as Prime Minister.
Yes.
We can work that out, where Hipkins gets 1 out of 5, Luxon gets 2. Less than a year, 1, 2 is 1 to 2 years. So that's just a number that can't be challenged.
Yeah.
All right. So selection margin for party leadership. Both leaders were elected as party leaders by their respective caucuses. Those votes are private, but it's known Hipkins' selection was unanimous. I believe Luxon also won by a large margin, greater than 15%, so both get 5 out of 5. Seems fair as well. Party polling relative to most recent election. Oh, that's this one here, isn't it? Luxon gets 2 out of 5 because they were in the low 30s, down from 38. And Chippy gets, I can't see, Hipkins gets 4 out of 5 because he was in the low 30s after an election result of 29.7. Again, just the numbers gives you all that based on the things. Levels of public trust is interesting though, because this is done on polling. Do you do all of that one on polling, or is there any kind of vibe for you?
Yeah, this is taken from a poll, but unfortunately I was the only poll that I know of that directly asked how much you trust these two leaders is dated back to 2023, as I've said there. So, and so yes, there were figures, and it was, I think, 37 for Luxon and 54 for Hipkins, if I recall rightly, something like that.
Yep.
And so that was, I was able to do that. That's a trustometer, so to speak. It's just a little bit dated, that's all.
This one's a bit more opinion based, so isn't it? Likelihood of credible leadership challenge within the next 6 months. Luxon,
this is a meaty one.
Luxon is moderate, 3 out of 5. So, there's a 60% chance of it. Moderate, 3 out of 5. Hipkins is low risk, other way around, 40% versus 20%. So, because the higher, the lower. So, Hipkins is 4 out of 5, low risk. Luxon is 3 out of 5, moderate risk. How do you come to those numbers?
Yeah, really good question. That was a tricky one because there'd been over the last week, there's been a lot of speculation. Duncan has really been getting stuck into Luxon, saying the knives are out, mate. They're coming for you. But on the other hand, more moderate voices or more, informed, well, I would say more informed voices like Claire Trevitt were commenting over the weekend. We don't think that he's that close to being rolled. It's too expensive in terms of costs and benefits to roll the leader. It really did them a lot of damage in 1997 when they rolled Bolger, for instance. So although he isn't really polling very well, the investment in Luxon is so great that it would cost them a lot now to the damage would do. That's the conventional thinking. So, but on the other hand, I had to put Luxon on a higher risk than Hipkins simply because of that speculation. Because sometimes that speculation can become reality, you know.
And Labor's basically literally done the opposite. Kieran McAnulty is the person that people are talking about, and he's actually come out going, when you guys in the media speculate, it harms us. I want to make it clear I am not, like, at least he's, you never know what's behind it, but what the words he has spoken have been quite definitive over that.
Yeah. So I just don't see the same level of potential challenge at the moment. So this is only what's the risk of either leader being rolled as leader in the next 6 months?
Right.
Yeah. So
is it interesting? That's still moderate. Moderate wouldn't be comfortable for Mr. Luxon. What about the perceived ability to shape the party's platform? You put both of them 3 out of 5, which is moderate. It's perceived that they both have sort of a moderate ability to shape the party's platform.
Yeah, I didn't rate either of them very highly or very low here because bear in mind it's the party platform here, not the coalition government. So I see both of them having a moderate degree of control here, but where Chippy is weak at the moment is, I mean, this is only a temporary thing probably, but where he is objectively weak at the moment is that he keeps having to say we haven't made a call on that yet, but. Now that's reasonable. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but you just don't get the sense that this is a leader who's in control of his party platform. But that's not necessarily a bad thing at this point in the cycle. Similarly with Luxon, I think he has had, given the way that he's shaped the National Party agenda in terms of the election policy manifesto plus that managerial quarterly targets. I know you may not like that, but nonetheless, he's putting his kind of managerial stamp on it. And so, regardless of whether you like their managerial or political style or their policies, I've rated them equally in terms of how effectively they're putting their personal leadership stamp on the party platform. And I would expect, as I've said, I would expect that 3 out of 5 to improve when you get closer to the election.
All right, finally, perceived parliamentary effectiveness. You've got Luxon 2 out of 5, which is low. You've got Hipkins 4 out of 5, which is high. And I just wonder, is that because you've been listening to Chewy, who has said for the past 18 months that Luxon's not very good at this? Is that how you made the decision?
Chewy's my guru on this. But I think...
Stop it!
But for Luxon, this is where I bring in the coalition dynamics thing. That I mean, I'm not saying that there's necessarily sort of like, lots of negativity between the 3 party leaders in that coalition, but the other 2 are attention grabbers. The treaty bill has really, had a big impact on confidence in Luxon and his political agenda and so forth. So he's been really pushed around by his coalition partners and upstaged by them. Whereas Chippy has the advantage of having been, for instance, leader of the House and so forth. He's been in Parliament a lot longer. I feel that his effectiveness as an operator in Parliament needs to be given a stronger rating because of that. In many respects, Luxon has had less time to get used to the ropes in Parliament. He's getting better at it, but now he's in this situation, finds himself in this rather complicated 3-party coalition with attention-grabbing guys on each side.
My last question about this is more kind of from your perspective, what do these guys need to do that, let's say in 6 months from now, you do another one of these things? There's some things they can't do. They can't do time as Prime Minister, but of the things they can do, what do they need to do to come out with a better score in 6 months from now?
Look, if there's one thing I could say to Mr. Luxon, if he's listening to this, I'm sure
he always listens.
He
always
loves
listens.
the show.
Loves the show.
If there's one thing I could say to Christopher is stop saying, well, what I'd just say to you is. It's because
Can't do it. Impossible.
It's like in brackets, he's saying, "You simpleton." You know, it comes across to me as incredibly patronizing, and it's just a verbal tick that he can train himself out of. And I don't know why. I don't know why he hasn't trained himself to stop doing that. But that's just one example that stands out to me in terms of um, his inauthentic and overly managerial style of language. I know that he's been getting better compared with when he first became National Party leader, when he really did talk like a CEO. He's been getting better at it, but I think people find him as inauthentic and hard to relate to. Some people find him patronizing. There are aspects of the way that he speaks which I think he can change. This is the thing; it can be changed with a bit of training. So he needs to get that training, but also, so he needs to he needs to discipline his team a little bit, because he's got some pretty capable and ambitious people underneath him, like Willis and Bishop and others. He needs to rein them in a little bit and get them cheerleading for him a bit more ahead of the election. And of course, he needs to do something about his coalition partners, a bit more discipline there as well. As for Hipkins, well, he does carry with him over his shoulder this I lost the last election. And the other weird thing is this, guys, he's going to be up against the same Christopher that he was debating with in 2023. To voters out there, this is going to be like deja vu. And the danger is that people just switch off. Oh my God, this is boring. The same two boring guys. We're going to switch off. And Chippy has to find a way of breaking through that so that he doesn't sound like he sounded back in 2023. So there's a lot of baggage, like the policy bonfire and all the rest of it, but there's a lot of baggage that Labour and he have to leave behind and show clearly that they've left it behind, and they've put certain, like the tax policy, etc. They've got that sorted. They're solid on it. They're not fighting internally over it anymore and saying, "Oh, can we do this?" No, we can't. No more captain's calls. So that it's a really clear platform. So, so he has to sharpen up Labour's policy platform, clarify what they stand for now, leaving behind certain things, not saying, obviously, not the things that you jettison, you don't say that they were really bad ideas. You can't afford to say that. The compulsory unemployment insurance scheme wasn't a bad idea. It just didn't fly, either with the left or the right. So jettison those things. What do you stand for now? And I get the feeling, actually, from listening to Chippy's, sort of vision and vision type statements that he's done recently, that he is shifting things a little bit more towards questions about productivity and prosperity and those sorts of themes.
I think two things. The first is, at the last election, I have no idea whether it'll be Chippy or not, right? But if it is, the difference about the upcoming, and I hear you, if people don't turn off, is now he's got a record to pin Luxon to. Whereas last time it was all, fairies and moonbeams and promises, and, that was Labour bad was all National had to do to get in. Whereas now there's, smoke free 2025, there's the fairies, there's $200 million, there's, so Luxon will have to be more defensive in that than offense. And the other thing I was going to say is I don't think he can change that verbal tick. Once something becomes a hashtag WIWSTYI, once it becomes a hashtag, it's there forever. So even if he does get rid of it, that hashtag will be on everybody's tweets and messages and stuff at the next election, no matter what. What I would say to you is,
yeah, I know it's a terrible habit.
Yeah,
really.
And I think even if he tried, okay, say he listens to his many advisors and he goes into an intense boot camp of "don't fucking say this again, Chris." I think honestly, during a high pressure thing like a debate, imagine if we don't hear it for weeks and we're like, "Oh, he's got it," and then he's pushed into a corner in a debate and he just pops it out. People would lose their fucking minds. I think what it comes down to is two things. I think that people don't see Luxon as being authentic. And that isn't something you can learn.
You can't
just
fake
are or you're
authenticity.
not. You can't fake it. And I think that's Chippy. That's something that Hipkins doesn't have to learn. He comes across as authentic, but
Yeah.
with that, he can come across as a bit more wishy-washy. Now, I think Labour have all of the pieces rapidly approaching where they need to be. Labour has a strong front bench that seem to be united behind Chris Hipkins. They seem to have a plan that they really want to lock in with a good runway in. And then that takes away one of your criticisms is like he is fronting the media and basically going, we're going to do this. I can't tell you anything about it. I can't tell you, but I'm giving you a warning, but I don't want to talk about it. And I agree, it's not a good look. But should they get that squared away and go, that's it, we're taking it to market and we are going to spend the next year hammering these guys with it. And we have the Hipkins that we have always asked for in a debate, the aggressive one, the one that we saw, what was it, the second and third debate? We didn't see him in the first one. But in the election, he got a bit more on the attack and we're like, that's the one.
Yeah,
that's the one. Now, when we questioned him on this show and said, "Hey, look, we want to see a little bit of mongrel," he had quite a good answer. He's like, "I don't want to scare off the people that would go either way." But when you're in the race, when the timing's right, when you're firm on your numbers and you're firm on your policy and you're firm on your team, that's when you bring it out.
And look, here's an attack line that he's almost certainly going to have, is that come the next election, public debt will still be high, or if not higher, and the government's books will still be in deficit, and that's almost certain. And so he can say, look, you've not met your fiscal targets. The danger, of course, is that the economy does start to grow, which is presumably something that you guys and I would want to see. But if it does happen, say, does start to boil, the economy really does start to go at the end of this year into next year, then that's going to be obviously to Luxon's advantage. He will say, look, my policies are paying off. But that remains to be seen. It may not happen. So that would be what Luxon is hoping for, and that's what would pull his polling up if it happens, and people start to feel it happening, in their day-to-day life. Now, but I'm pretty sure that they won't be meeting fiscal targets, however, and that will be a weakness. And I interviewed Nicola Willis last year, and she admitted that, that's not going to be the case. All the projections are saying so. So that will be a weakness.
And they've got infrastructure time bombs built in there as well. We're going to go into an election with no new ferries, and I still think that that's going to sink them.
Pardon the pun.
And the other question, I mean, I don't know enough about this, but what will they have actually done about water supplies?
I think they don't know either, Grant. I think that's the whole point we're making right now. I don't think anybody knows. Hey, we should tell people, because on your conversation piece, you basically invite people to come and critique you, and you send them to your Substack, where you kind of put out why you've decided what you've decided. And that is Grant Duncan, phd.substack.com. Grant, thanks for joining us. It's lovely to have you on. We haven't had you for a while, so thanks so much for being a part of us tonight.
Yeah, great to talk with you guys again. Yeah, have a good evening.
You too. Anytime.
And you too, mate.
Catch you soon.
Yeah, okay.
There is Grant Duncan, and it is Grant Duncan, phd.substack.com. All right, Joey, let's get some of these super chats and stuff, shall we? Kiwi Bird, I'm worried about the Luxon Modi trade agreement. If Luxon agrees to clamp down on groups for a trade agreement, that could set a dangerous precedent. Agreed. Baba says, I'm late for a very important date. No time to say. What was that of? I'm late. Oh, that's the White Rabbit, isn't it? No, that's the White Rabbit out of Alice in Wonderland. When I lose the summer, my fuzzy ears and whiskers took me too much time to. I run and then I hop up. Yeah, it's White Rabbit. Sorry, should I keep going? No, I'll stop. Okay, I'll stop.
Wow.
Vanda, late fee again. Gold, late fee, evening all. Riwai, Luxon is hardly a minister, let alone prime. Yeah. Tiffany says, hella late fee. Howie says, late fee, decimal corrected this time, LOL. The danger of mouse. Luxon has been living in his bubble for too long. And Howie says, for more blankets, credit card wouldn't go through last night. Oh, cool. Thank you, Howie. We'll make sure that happens. Just so people know who have no idea what we're talking about. There was a bit of a jest going on last night, a bit of a joke of a conversation around the cost of a new electric blanket, which is vast. And some people put some money towards it. And I was like, this is not okay. And Chewy made the suggestion, maybe we should donate that money to, a charity trying to give blankets to people in Gaza. And it's going to go to UNICEF, Chewy. I decided that today. It's going to go to UNICEF. Cool. And I actually, whilst we were talking, I had a look at last night's show to see if the revenue had come up yet. And it has not. So I can't tell you what the total is, but I'm guessing, because at one stage you said around 400, it's probably going to be around $500 to donate. Yep. So you're very, very generous. And that's,
I don't want to sort of overpromise, underdeliver. So someone in Discord actually went through the chat and tallied it up, and it's possibly north of that.
Oh, cool. That's great. Whatever it is. I mean, I think they take 30% or something from YouTube from those donations. So we'll work all that out though. And like I said, anything that came in last night, even the first part of the show, which was you guys doing this sort of thing, late fee, we'll just put the whole show's amount across, and that's what we'll do.
Because who wants to do math?
Yeah. Stinky poos. All right. This is a story I saw very, very late, but it's a very, very interesting story. I want to chat to Gary Pienda about this. I'm not sure where he stands on this, because we know that Dr. Gary sometimes gets some raised eyebrows when he's talking to some of his seniors about the public messaging that he does. But it appears right now, Chewy, this government, remember the government of free speech, remember the anti-woke government, or the wokesters, are the guys who are always trying to squash free speech and that kind of stuff. Yeah, apparently they are going to censor their doctors from speaking about public health issues publicly unless they get top-down approval. The government of censorship.
Welcome back. Specialist doctors tasked with protecting public health say the government is trying to stop them from speaking out. Medical officers are
tasked with protecting public health. That's their job. That's that's in the job description. So if it's to do with public health, they're not allowed to speak out about it unless managerials above them give them permission to.
Health were called into a meeting on Tuesday and told they need national level approval before making public statements. They've described the edict as chilling, but the health minister's standing by the orders. Political reporter Glenn McConnell has more.
They aren't loving it. A row between the government and doctors about McDonald's has turned into a super-sized dispute about censorship and public health.
It's ridiculous. They're being censored.
Public health doctors at Te Atatu Water raised alarm after being told off for making submissions against the new McDonald's in Wanaka. That telling off came from the top.
The government expects Health New Zealand to be delivering timely, quality access to healthcare for all New Zealanders, not making submissions opposed to McDonald's stores up and down the country.
What if it's a public health issue? And that's what their job is to do about public. What if they're doing it in their spare time, Simeon? What happens if they're not using up any of their allotted hours, and above and beyond, they are doing it? I just feel like this is madness. We're seeing this in America. The right. We've talked about this week. The right are the ones who have screamed about those woke leftards smashing free speech and not being a part of it the whole time, whereas it's happening in America now that those on the right are doing it. We had the conversation about the Palestinian protester with green card holder, Mahmoud, I'm going to say, I'm not going to say the surname because I don't remember it, L-I-L, Falel, something like that. Anyway, and we're seeing it in other parts of America, and now we're seeing it here. These guys, the free speech guys, the free speech purists, are now like, you can't say this publicly. What if it's got to do with public health? No, it is literally the definition. Thank you, Khalil, that's it, Mahmoud Khalil. I couldn't remember, I was singing F for some reason. And they're now literally saying, you guys can't do part of your job. They're charged with speaking out about public health issues. You can't now speak out about public health issues. Or, Chewy One wonders, is it more to do with they can't speak out about commercial interests? And I wonder why that would be for this national government.
This is so fucked and so short-sighted. Like, to say to someone, okay, I'm gonna take a bit of a leap here and say that if a doctor made a submission against, say, McDonald's in Wanaka, they lived in the area and they did so in their private capacity. So you're doing one of two things. You're saying if you make a submission, you can't say that you're a doctor, because people might give your opinion more weight because you're talking about the potential health issues it'll have in the area, which is fucked. Because you tell a doctor they can't refer to themselves as a doctor, you're going to get your ear chewed off. Those guys studied for a long time to earn those two letters.
But
they're
then
going to use them.
They'll chew it off and then they'll fix it.
And then they'll do it again and then fix it. And it's an endless loop. But I think of other situations where a doctor might want to break ranks and tell the people that there's a public health. Imagine if we had a resurgence of like super COVID and the government didn't want to look bad, so they're trying to keep that under the lid.
Yeah.
You have a whistleblower come out and say, hey, look, we've got this scary pandemic happening and the government's not telling. Like, it's just stupid. Like,
imagine if it was a measles outbreak, which is happening around the world.
Yeah. Oh, there's no outbreak because we're not talking about it. You know,
there is, but they're not allowed to talk about it.
I just can't see the angle that he's taking. Like, this is different. This is very different from saying to, say, an IRD staff member, like, publicly, you can never verbalize a political opinion. You're a government employee. You can't say current government bad, last government was better. You're paid by the government, so you can't. And I know people that work for government departments and they treat that very seriously.
Yeah.
Like, they have trouble having conversations with me because I talk about politics so much. They're like, that's a good opinion that I don't agree with or disagree with officially. You know,
right.
Literally that's how it goes. So I can't see why he's taking this angle.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Occam's razor, the fewest number of assumptions to get to a conclusion, doesn't make any sense other than, in my opinion, as some of the chat are saying, other than this has corporate money tied to it. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, but that would be a reason. We'll get back to Simeon. Sorry, we won't, Joey. We'll listen to you again. What was that?
Oh, I was just going to say, like, when we're talking about this McDonald's in Wanaka, this literally had David Seymour simping for them on social media, where he's posing with a fucking fillet of fish, of all things.
Ugh.
Posing with a fillet of fish and saying it was great for the Wanaka community that they get a McDonald's.
Well, the Wanaka community said no. So it was good that David Seymour said yes, because the Wanaka community in massive voices said no. So we'll get back to Simeon now.
For a fillet of fish.
Not making submissions opposed to McDonald's stores up and down the country. We want them to be a health service, not the health police.
But doctors fear the government's latest edict is suppressing public health expertise. On Tuesday, medical officers of health were called to a meeting which they described as chilling. In a statement, National Public Health Service boss Dr. Nick Chamberlain confirmed he told those doctors that they would need national level approval before making any public submissions.
To be making submissions opposed to McDonald's shops and getting involved in public...
Is it just me though? Why the fuck does he keep saying McDonald's shops? I mean, maybe it's just me. Why is he saying McDonald's shops? It's like, dude, you're 33. Why are you talking like a 92-year-old?
Submissions.
To be making submissions opposed to McDonald's shops and getting involved in public policy matters is not their role, and we're being very clear about what their role should be and what their role shouldn't be.
Sir Colin Tukui-Tonga, the former Director of Public Health, says he's never seen such an attack on public health advocacy before.
It's unheard of. Unheard of. I gave you perhaps an extreme example. It's like telling a surgeon, you can't operate on that patient, you have to operate on this. You have to trust people's professional judgment.
No medical officer of health would speak on the record to 3 News in the past.
Gee, I wonder why.
These doctors have been able to speak freely with media and local councils about local health issues. At the moment, their team is facing a restructure, and with the latest warning from their boss and the health minister, they're worried about losing their jobs. Labor says politics is getting in the way of doctors doing their jobs.
We shouldn't be cutting off information that could help New Zealanders' health because of one example. What's he scared of? People saying that McDonald's is bad for your health?
McDonald's serving up a new drama for the health sector.
There you go. Yes. What are they scared of?
There's quite a lot of product placement for McDonald's in that story about doctors.
It's true. Very true, very true.
Like, I assume, and I'm going to make a big accusation here, I assume that Simeon has been bought and paid for with 1, maybe 2 Happy Meals if he does a good job.
That little fella couldn't get through 2. 1.5.
Maybe on different occasions.
Oh, okay.
Like it's
maybe
spread out.
But
like
maybe when his dad's in the front seat, maybe he gets like a Big Mac as well, driving him around.
Mark Mitchell puts him in his
Mitchell.
booster seat and takes him to McDonald's.
Yeah, maybe. It's
But
just,
that's mental. Imagine if Mark Mitchell came out and said, look, police can't talk about local issues with the local radio station or the newspaper without my express permission.
Yeah.
Because a wave of local RAM rating or something like that makes the government look bad. Would we put up with that? Because that's kind of along the same lines. It's mental.
Well, speaking of police, as Tom says very cleverly, if doctors aren't the health police, who are? And it's like, look, I get police, but the example you're given, you don't often get police, but the story said that their job is to communicate and educate about public health. That's their job. So now what they're saying is their job is to go through their bosses to communicate about public health. And Chewy, they were saying, it's being reported that they were saying it was chilling. I get it. And I don't know. It's obviously a special group of doctors, but it'd be interesting. We'll try and get Gary on and see if he wants to talk to us about it and see what he thinks.
Yeah, if anyone's going to tell us, it's going to be Gary. Like your job is not to make public submissions. You've got to get back to changing beds and cleaning out bedpans like we told you to.
Let us get to a bunch of super chats before we go on. Arvid says, would Chippy going hard left not catch a lot? I struggle with the explanation, but I understand it, that basically it's not scaring away the middle yet. I think there are a lot of votes on the left to yet be scooped up. And like I've always said, it's the Greens' job to actually get those more further left voters activated. Right, so that's their job. Their job is to hold their base. Yeah, it's not their job to take from Labor, but if they do, it doesn't matter. But the big job is to activate that group of voters who basically say no one speaks for me, they're on the far left and they don't participate. That's their job. Labor's job is to take from the middle what they can to get back those people that voted for National this time around, because they are shocked and disgusted by things like the Treaty Principles Bill and, Winston's Winky police and that kind of stuff. And, smoke-free New Zealand and tax cuts. That's their job. And so I can understand why he would say we don't want to scare them away. It kind of rubs me the wrong way, but at least I can understand it. Tiffany says, please ethics check the charity first. UniSurf is... All right. Happy to do that. I don't know. I did some reading around. What I basically did was, because we talked about blankets, I looked up, clothes, etc., for charities for Gaza, and they were the first one that popped up. And I mean, they've got as far as I understood, a pretty good name. But yep, it's a fair call. And then there are some people who are still getting into this. Stu, $50 for the blankets.
Oh, thanks, Stu.
John, $20 for the blankets. Mike says this is more nonsense like WFH stuff.
Work from home.
Yeah, they can't stop doctors from doing their jobs. It's in their contracts. This has no legal basis. Just like it's in my contract, I can work flexibly. Flexibly? Is that right? Flexibly. Sounds wrong on my head. I've already been there. Kiwi Bird says, for the corporations, by the corporations. Falconer says, Luxon just told the Indian Prime Minister that free speak is a right in New Zealand unless it is breaking the law, when he asked why he didn't silence the organisation India has called terrorists. Jeremy Miller, maybe McDonald's will be funding a PPP hospital. Yeah, maybe. For the blankets, says Claire, $20. Hope that really helps. Peter King, wrap kids in blankets. All right, very good. It's interesting because we are going to get back to free speech tonight as well, because I do have some stuff about you might find this ironic, Chewy, how Brian Tamaki doesn't think that drag queens should have freedom of speech. Overtly just says it. They don't have freedom of speech.
He doesn't think that they should exist.
Yeah, this is true. Hey, let's do a quick one in between because we said we would. This is a story from last night, actually, and there's a little bit of a fight going on in the right to moment as to who is the best friend to farmers. An MP from ACT goes pretty hardcore against National, and David Seymour, of all people, backs National.
This ACT MP once described people who believe the planet is warming as nut jobs. He still has his doubts about climate change.
What I call is a healthy degree of scepticism.
In an interview with alternative media outlet Reality Check Radio, Mark Cameron said farmers believe National.
It's a friendly way of referring to them. Alternative media, maybe. Conspiracy theorists, tinfoil hat wearers. It could be another way.
It's done them dirty.
Simon Watts and his crew have signed us up to 51% reduction by 2035. Well, that's worse than James Shaw has been the tonality that is offered to me. And farmers are lamenting that National is out of touch.
Not just lamenting, he says they're furious.
They're genuinely irate.
While Mark Cameron wouldn't be interviewed by One News today, ACT says his comments come after he met many farmers at rural field days. In a statement a short time ago, the Climate Change Minister Simon Watts expressed National support for rural communities. He says part of that is participating in international agreements which are key to some of our free trade deals, pointing out that without those, farmers risk losing access to valuable export markets. ACT's leader came to the Climate Change Minister's defence.
What would you say to people who think that this government and Simon Watts are more of a threat to farming than James Shaw was when he was Climate Minister?
Well, Simon Watts has inherited a circumstance where he can't actually go backwards. He can only go forwards, and what he's chosen to do is the minimum viable option within the agreement that James Shaw signed us up to. You know, if you want to criticise Simon Watts, just remember James Shaw had to crawl so Simon could run.
So that's from yesterday's news, and the reason we were looking at this today, Chewy, is because Mr. Luxon actually got cornered in India and asked about this, about them not being friends to farmers, and this is what he said.
Mark Cameron is saying that farmers are irate with National and feel betrayed by your climate commitments. What do you make of that?
Oh, that's rubbish. Farmers tell me that they do not want multinational companies and countries that compete with New Zealand on dairy kicking our products off the shelf. And I tell you, I act brutally in New Zealand's national interests. And as a result, it's entirely appropriate that we are part of the Paris Agreement. But we will act always in New Zealand's interests, and we'll make decisions that are actually in Kiwis' interests. And I'm telling you, it is in our national interest to be part of that agreement. What has been signed up for.
This is still in India, I think. He's still in India in this. Yeah. Why is Mark?
I was just thinking that. I was just thinking, why is Mark Mitchell there? He's got nothing to do with trade.
There? Yeah. Is he just a junket? Is this a junket for Mark Mitchell? I just don't know why he's there. Anyway.
For 2035 now brings back the global commitment into alignment with our domestic commitment, which is net zero 2050. But, I just say go out and talk to some farmers. And as I do regularly, I was in Wanaka at the AMP show, a week of.
Did you get some Maccas or a McDonald there, Mr. Luxon? Did you enjoy a fillet of fish?
In a bit ago, and they tell me they do not want New Zealand products kicked off shelves by multinational companies and competing countries that would love us to withdraw so that they could do exactly that.
Last couple, guys.
You don't think Mark Cameron's talking to farmers?
Well, I just say to you, go look at farmer confidence, which has come up to a 10-year high. Go look at the outlook for milk and dairy prices in New Zealand. You would have seen 2 weeks ago the red meat sector say there's another $1.2 billion coming into the red meat sector in the coming year. And even the wool farmers are actually saying they're getting good prices as well. So, agriculture is on fire. It's starting to come on fire. It's going to lead us out of the recession that we're in. I want agriculture pumping and I want the economy growing at a maximum level, and I do not want to punish farmers. And I can tell you the biggest punishment would be to make a withdrawal, because those multinational companies and countries would actually hurt us bad.
So I guess to his credit, it's sort of to his credit, because it doesn't really explain why we're a part of the Paris Agreement, but that's the take that Seymour did as well. He basically said it would be more expensive for us to get out of it than stay in it because of all the things that have been promised. So for whatever reason, he's on board for staying in it.
Good with the bad. I'm glad that was like a really clear statement of like, well, if we're going to chuck out the Paris Agreement, then our markets are going to chuck out our products, because that's how that works. And I like that statement was fucking clear.
Yeah.
I have criticisms about not actually talking about climate change being a big issue, that it's just down to an economic point of view, but fuck it, I'll take it.
Yeah, and I think I'm actually interested in also what's going on behind the scenes. As like for David Seymour to have one of his MPs basically abusing the government, what does that say again about the relationship between this three-headed taniwha? Like, what does it say? I mean, that should be that information should not go out like that interview without leadership within that party say so. So, and I don't suspect that Seymour's someone who's going to be then racking, hauling his MPs across the coals, but probably should be.
Remember when we said that David Seymour's greatest political trick was the fact that he kept his MPs quiet and out of the spotlight because they were a bunch of moon units?
This is why.
This is a really good example.
Yeah.
Because look, anecdotally, these guys can go, oh, look, I talk to farmers, right? Do you think that ACT guy is talking to farmers that believe in climate change and think that more should be done to assist them with climate mitigation or rebuilding wetlands to make their land more resilient? Do you think he's talking to those farmers? Or do you think he's talking to the farmers that just drive around in a tractor spraying herbicide and listening to reality check radio with the windows open? Do you think he's talking to those ones? This is the thing. I don't believe that any of them get a full range. Like, people will go up and talk to the MPs or the politicians that they like, or that they dislike. They're not getting a whole range of opinions. And I think the other thing is Luxon needs to realise that he doesn't know anything about farming or farmers. He's had no experience with them. He's a marketing guy.
Barely.
Yeah. But I mean, it's this faux like, oh yeah, we're in it for the farmers fucking bullshit that is so, what's the word we used earlier? Inauthentic.
Yeah.
It's not authentic. There's also a comment of why Mark Mitchell was in India.
Yeah.
He is Minister of Sport. So maybe that's why.
Okay.
And then the other question is, maybe on his capacity of Minister of Police, they'll be talking about cracking down on Sikh extremists, which I would find less likely.
David Palmer says, for the blankets, check out the Palestinian Children's Relief Fund. Definitely will. They do great mahi. Danger of Mouse says, who is the head behind DS? David Seymour, is that your moustache guy? Farmers aren't a monolith like they telling us Maori aren't. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's certainly farmers that just hate being told what to do by anyone. Whether it's the federated farmers or the government of the day, they just want to keep doing what they've been doing forever. In some cases, like their dad and their granddad did before them, for better or worse. But I think a lot of these farmers need to realize that whether they believe in climate change or not, it's fucking coming for them.
Yeah.
And they'll be the first with their hands out for government assistance when it does.
All right. So last night we did a little conversation around this new initiative that ACT is launching. And this was part of the imagery that David Seymour had. He picked up the cone, and as soon as he picked up the cone, I went, "Oh, David. Oh, Davey. Who knows?"
As a politician, just never pose with anything. Like it's like holding up a blank piece of paper. Oh, sorry, a piece of paper that someone can make blank. Just don't do it. Rookie move.
And we kind of threw out an idea that people may tutu with this picture and make it other things, not thinking anyone would, or definitely not. Speaking of incitement, not inciting anyone to do it, but some people did, and they sent us some of the pictures.
Jesus!
There is one with JC, and I guess that's based around the idea that apparently JC would vote for ACT, and then we get a theme of questions, Chewy. They start here with a particularly large dong in his hand, and then they go into.
I think that particular one's inciting racial disharmony. So maybe that's And
then we get to this. Now, the thing about this picture,
that impeccable shading,
is of course down around the ball bag. You can see that the microphone is pressing into and shading against the ball bag. There's actually shading being added, and as I say, there is pressure from that microphone. And then the same person who sent this in also thought maybe this could be a poster for next year's election. Sushi not. Oh, by the way, if you're on the audio podcast, sorry, my dudes and dudettes, get to a video. Sushi not woke enough. Eat dick for school lunch. ACT 2026. Yes, impeccable thus far. Chewy, do you have any that you want to add to it? Are there any other ones? Because that's all I've seen. I haven't seen Discord if there's anything different. I mean, it is a terrible Photoshop.
Look, the
theme is brilliant,
quality.
And we get it.
Ask for quality.
Yeah.
Oh,
Made me laugh.
Where is that window gone? I think I've lost the window. One sec.
Just talk amongst yourselves. Nothing to see here.
Like this is very professional. I've got too many folders.
While you're doing that, I'll just say Avasta 8. Some money for blankets. Yeah, and I saw a conversation going on in the chat. The blankets are a metaphor. They wouldn't necessarily have to go to just that idea, but that was the metaphor for it. And can I say, I put this out. Actually, I put a tweet out today that I showed those images that got sent in, and I talked about the donations you guys did last night. And for those two things equally, I'm like, I love this community. Do I love one more than the other? Well, we'll just call it even. You make David Seymour hold big penises, and you give lots of money to help people in Palestine. I mean, how could you not? Mr. Stupid is so proud of it. Oh, so we're going even further. That's not even. Oh, what happened? Disappeared quickly.
Oh, I was trying to change the window. I'm not very good at this.
No.
But this is my favorite. Are you
David
ready?
Thompson gives $2 for saying ball bag shading on live TV.
Yeah, this is one of the ones where we hope that Media Watch is listening and trying to clip that show. That's great.
We'll enter this one in next year's awards. This show. Oh my gosh! Oh, that's terrible.
That's a different angle. Everybody's looking admirably. Yeah, it's very wrinkly.
Oh, I don't look. In fact, you can't really see where it stops. That makes it even more concerning. Yeah, let's get rid of that one. So we've just been demonetized, I think, by the way.
He should be saying, I finally found out where the meat that goes into these school meals comes from.
No, too much. Oh my gosh. No comments being made for the audio podcast. No.
It's not leathery enough to be his.
All right, are we done? I'm feeling a little bit sick now. Maybe we should call in sick for the rest of the show.
That's all I've got. I assume that Emily has been watching at some point and we'll get a hand-drawn one.
Okay, let's get into this last thing. I spent so much time today working on footage and watching bloody Brian Tamaki. Honestly, you have no idea the hours I spent.
He's been converted.
Hours I spent on this today. So here's the first clip. We're going to go through these because I fucking made a lot of them, and we're going to fucking look at them because it took me so long. And if I had to go through watching this dude for that long, you're going to have to as well. So here's the first clip, yeah? And this first clip is all about, like, the reason I apologize to you at the start, Chewie, because I've been quite generous to these guys, yeah? And I've been like, well, you know, there was another group technically that organised, yada, yada, yada. But in this conversation, and this is from Twitter, so I've actually cut this up and I've actually repeated a few things, so it's very clear. Brian Tamaki just blows any of my graciousness out the window by just basically going, yep, it was my idea, and yep, I sent them.
I was communicating.
Oh, by the way, there's nice clown circus music behind it all as well.
And I said to Lar, great job what you're doing, but I want you to storm the library they're in. I want you to storm.
Hang on, this is not the one. What's going on? Because I have little. Hang on, what's going on? Try again. Sorry.
Wait, Jesus.
Sorry.
That was very loud, Pat.
Okay, so we're just going to excuse you. Just talk amongst yourselves. Talk amongst yourselves. Talk amongst yourselves.
How the worm has turned.
Yeah, but that didn't come up. I don't know why it didn't come up. So I'll just go play it straight off Twitter because it's quite important to get the thing that he was saying. So you picked up that. Oh, what's going on? Look, now my internet's gone all.
So on tonight's show, we've found out that Brian Tamaki's God is real and he hates Pat's computer.
Yeah, look at this. What's going on, team?
Right-o. Don't make me log into Twitter, Pat.
No, but it's also, this is out of time because it's supposed to be there. You see, it's out of time. I don't know what's going on. Okay. The thing I love about these little misfires is no one else gets to see it except the live audience because I just cut them when we're actually doing it. Only because there's little, oh shit, look at this. I was going to say as well, now that we're talking about issues with Twitter and stuff, you should see our views on some of our Palestinian conversations last night.
Oh, are they just garbage?
Absolute garbage. You should see the one, like obviously there's the pictures, look beautiful. You should see the one with the actual conversation we had with Byron. It's like 60 views. Like 60. And the ones that we talk about the ceasefire being broken, like 150 views. Yeah, most of our videos that don't perform very well now get several hundred, and our good ones get several thousand. 60.
Well,
you cannot look at that and say that there's not algorithm stuff going on.
Now they have.
Jeez, and that started by itself. So anyway, I'm ready to go again. So this is Brian Tamaki. This is him talking about sending the people to the library.
Now they have this going on. And so I know it just bugged me all through the day, and I was communicating, and I said to Lar, great job what you're doing, but I want you to storm the library they're in. I want you to storm the library they're in.
To storm the library they're in.
And shut it down. And he said, yep, right, on to it, Apostle.
And remember, Brian knows that his congregation will do exactly what he commands because they show immediate response and obedience when he calls.
At a word or a phone call, I can guarantee immediate response. Well, a couple of times I didn't answer, but yeah. That's right. Immediate response and obedience to a leader. They did it, and you would have read about it probably. You heard about it, that the media started to get a hold of it, and found out that they'd stormed it. There was a lot of lies of violence. That's not true. There might have been some pushy-bargy, but hey, I'd smack somebody over who's going to pervert my little child in a room.
Oh, would he now? Would he
Now,
smack someone over
as I
for
said,
perverting children in a room? Would he?
how
now?
how he's not sitting in the dock with them for that, I don't understand. Now, actually, Chewy, you respond first of all to it. Well, tell us what you're thinking.
What a delusional sack of shit Brian Tamaki is. Like that, I love that he's like, here I am admitting to my crimes.
Yeah.
This has to be incitement, right? It has to be.
Well, I told them to storm the library. They stormed the library where some of them allegedly committed assault. That's the court case. But how he is not in that dock, or at the very least receives his own charges for incitement. Remember this free speech, guys. Free speech, unless it's a direct direction, like a direct call to violence. I told them to storm the library.
This ties into other things that Destiny and Destiny affiliated people have done as well. He's like, oh, I never told them to paint over that rainbow crossing. Sure, he's my grandnephew or whatever. Or, all of these things. He has incited his followers to break the law several times. There's been I'm thinking about at least a half dozen times that they've broken lockdown, they have blocked motorways, they've vandalized public spaces like the rainbow crossings. Now they've tried to storm a library at his command. He's quite clear on that he commanded them to do it, and they do it because they are obedient to a leader.
Yep.
And he's the leader.
Yep. So and he knows that. He knows that because that was from the same 10 minutes. It was just said earlier. That's why I made it look like it was a bit smaller. He said, they obey me. I call, they answer, they obey me. So he knows that. So when he says storm, he knows they will storm. And look, I'm not going to show you this other one in case you have a problem with the imagery. I do want to show you one more, but I'll put this out on Twitter tomorrow. This one here, or maybe I'll just put it on Facebook as well. He spends time talking about the pictures of Hugo, the drag king. Let me just play for you the last part of this. Hopefully it'll work. Where he talks about
Hugo.
He's talking about R18 images that were being used to advertise this event.
Okay.
Hugo, but he also goes by the name of, it's R18 now, block your ears, kids. He goes by the...
Hang on, we'll go back because it seems to be working. If I can hear him talking about the photos.
Your West team, and I knew he had the young Generation Z with him. And I had a gut feeling that these guys, I've been with the young people just recently, remember? 200 or 300 of our Generation Z, and I said, you're the future. You are the ones that are going to carry the torch of what we've started. But we're still viable, as Kane said. But right now, I can be at home doing what I'm doing, and many of the other, my main soldiers were nowhere near this.
My main soldiers were nowhere near this event. My main soldiers, but the youngsters went.
When I say main, that doesn't make these people anything less. It's just the Generation Z. So I said to Tila, he was already going to do that in West Auckland, and we had to confront this. I said, this drag queen bothered me for 2 weeks leading up to it, because he blatantly advertised, they're not hiding it anymore, that he was called King Hugo, but he also goes by the name of, it's R18 now, block your ears, kids. He goes by the name of slut and stripper. But he's dressed up and he's an R18 adult entertainer as an occupation in his other life. You hear what I'm saying? Now, you get that photo, just the photo of it, should be enough for a normal dad and mum to say, what the hell is that? Okay, I'll take it further, so you know. So he's advertising that picture.
Important thing to remember, he's talking about the R18 photo, and then he says, so he's advertising that picture. So he's talking about the R18 picture that Hugo supposedly uses. Is that the picture he used, the R18 picture? Let's have a look. So that's one of them. Smiling person. Doesn't look particularly R18. And here's the official one. So those are the pictures.
Wow, that's so full on.
Those are the pictures. Those are the two pictures.
Yeah. So what the fuck is he talking about?
Yeah. Well, he's not. That's it. He's chasing a narrative that's not there at all. We're going to keep going because I will play this last two, because this is the thing that we've had a bit of a week about free speech. And these guys, he talks about, they're coming out of the shadows. Yeah. Hello, kettle, pot, black. These guys are coming out. They've been emboldened to come out of the shadows. It started about 2015, 2016, still going on now. These guys who always scream free speech for me, but of course not for thee.
I told him to go back down their rat hole. Go back down your rat hole.
He's talking about the Free Speech Union.
About free speech. And I proceeded.
He's telling the Free Speech Union to go down their rat hole because the Free Speech Union said drag queens and kings have that free speech right.
To put up online and tell you that King Hugo, the transgender who's reading to school kids, an R18 adult entertainer, has no free speech in my book. No, you don't have any free speech. When you are perverting, grooming, and recruiting kids.
So there you go, no free speech. And the last
Hang
one.
on. We can't have drag queens recruiting young kids, but he just went on a 10-minute rant about the next generation. That's fine for him to recruit. Man, can he even lie straight in bed? Or do you think he needs to be strapped down somehow?
This last clip I'm going to play you, because do you recall last night, Chewy, when I said the people who have done this will get clout within this community? And now they'll be all like, remember, these are the guys and girls that put out their own names publicly saying, we did this. And I said last night that these guys will have gotten clout in their own community. This is the church service the day after. I'm going to show you them celebrating their event, what they think is successes. And you'll see exactly what I said last night. One guy gets up, and he's the guy that pushed through, and he is getting clout. He is getting rewarded. He is getting admired by this congregation for what he did. Of course, what then happens is I don't know who's facing charges, if any of these people are, because we don't know. But Brian will drop you like a hot stone so he doesn't get his hands dirty. Now, just something else to know, and I'll play it for you another day, but I was editing out things because of what Waitakere Court said, and it took me so long. I was trying to use a thing called Gaussian blur, where you can do a little circle blur on people's faces. Took me so long to do. I ended up just blurring out the whole screen. So some of them there's little blurs on, other times it's just the whole screen. It was just purely I ran out of time. But this is the bit where they're celebrating. They are using this as a way to slap themselves on the back. Exactly what I said last night.
Here's our reach overnight from yesterday. can you see that? 6.9 million. 7 million views on just these posts here. 7 million. It went viral. Yeah.
Oh, Brian.
I like that photo. That's your son. Is that? These and Mr.
It sounded like you were going, this cunt.
I want you to look at the camera.
I don't think about that. It does sound like that. And this is lots of blurring coming out because there's people on cameras. I do have all this though. So if these are the people, as soon as their names get released, we'll show it to you again and show you their faces.
Your wife too. Okay, turn around. I'm doing this on purpose. Now, where's your son? What's this? Hey? Another stand up. Turn around and face the camera.
Another camera.
Face the camera. I'm doing this to the public of New Zealand, the world. That's the wrong colour. To be doing a haka. That's behind, isn't it? But that's a white fella. And he's doing the haka like. Now, stand up. Face the camera. You're right. I think you're innocent in this one. This guy was the guy that was in the public library, walking through the crowd, busting it.
See what I mean by clout? He's literally patting himself. He's literally patting himself on the back. So, like I said this last night, this community will be confused as to why there's so much external pushback, because in the community, this was their biggest moment.
Up to get at King Hugo, and you wanted to tell Hugo what? I can't swear on the microphone.
Before we go any further, Kiwi Bird makes a joke. Reading is bad. It's exactly what this guy says. It's exactly what he says. He says, don't read to our children.
And you might be able to.
Yeah, we were just going to tell them that reading to kids is not okay. Our 18 entertainers can stay in the nightclubs and, yeah, leave our kids alone was the message.
I heard you said piss off.
So there you go. So Chewy, with my desire to be appropriate with things before the courts by saying we just need to be a bit careful. They've said it. Brian Tamaki sent his church members to the library to storm it. Brian Tamaki's church members then celebrated the next day, pushing through the crowd. Just a little bit of pushing and shoving. No violence, though. So I don't know how Brian Tamaki can't be in the dock or receive charge. I mean, if that's not incitement, I told them to storm the library, and then they stormed the library because I have cult-like control over them. It might actually be a defense for them, that they could actually probably use a defense. No, seriously, it could be a defense for them. No, but they won't, but they could.
Though.
Sorry, Joe.
They won't, because they've got to protect their leader. Look, I'm sorry. These Destiny people, they're so brainwashed and spend so much time sitting in that fucking shed in South Auckland somewhere that's masquerading as a church, huffing their own farts for hours at a time, that has turned their brains to soup.
That is the absolute example of a echo chamber. Because that's what we were saying last night, yeah?
100%. These churches, they want their followers to be isolated from the outside world. They're the only ones that know the truth. The only people that can support you are the people in this room. And that's a powerful thing to get them to do things, because they've got God on their side. So how could you do anything wrong?
Look, I especially that guy at the end speaking, I don't know whether he is or isn't one of the people charged. We will wait till those name suppression officially get lifted. They got denied, but they're under appeal, so we have to be 10% careful, I guess. But we'll show that again and show you that. Also, the other thing, the guy that stood up that I blew out as well, he was, I think, one of the 18 or 19-year-olds. So, you know, it does play out differently when they're 18 or 19 and they've got 60-year-olds and 50-year-olds telling them what to do. Considering that the frontal lobe doesn't develop until 25, which means young people literally don't have the understanding as to what risk assessment is all about until that frontal lobe develops. However, the people at the top, the disinformation dozen within that church, they are incredibly responsible for what happened on that day. Chewy.
100%. In their own words. In their own words. Filming their crime spree.
How could that still be up? How could I go to their website today and get it? What are they're obviously not as media savvy as they fucking think they are. How can that still be up? Someone incriminating themselves, but someone incriminating himself against something that happened out there. I hope they take it down, because if they do, I've got it. All right, guys.
I hope they don't, because the New Zealand police may very well find that very interesting. I hope they do.
Give me a call.
Certainly the media. Come on, let's blow right through this pretense that there might be a Destiny affiliated group. That it was Men Up or something else. No, they're not separate. They are the Venn diagram is a circle, guys. They put the information on their website. You just need to find it.
Very good. Exaldia says just following orders is not a defense. No, I agree with you in general, but I do actually think, like, people coming out of, what's that cult over on the West Coast that had got to be friendly as the head? Gloriavale. You know, if some people in Gloriavale responded to people who have brainwashed them in a certain way, like at that level, it might contribute to a defense. I guess what I'm saying is, if this is that much of a cult, they possibly could use it. Would it work though? I don't know. Booted by his hapu near Te Awamutu after trying to set up a commune type setup, had units built too. Thank you for the super chat, Tane. Wow Now says Ford O'Connor is married to Brian's granddaughter. I'm not sure who Ford O'Connor is, but okay, very good. Howie V says, look at Tamaki's girdle. Do you think?
Yeah. I want her. That is Pat, that is a very vain man.
I'm just looking at the lines. There, you reckon?
Yeah, I would put it past him.
Bit flatter up there. He's wearing a bit of a vest underneath, perhaps. It looks a bit flat.
A little bit of shapewear for men.
What is the woman's one called? Spanx. He's wearing Spanx for men.
Spanx.
When was Brian Tamaki's little child in the room? Kiwi Bird says donating blankie money to trigger the cookers. Cookie Nick says I'm late, but also what the fuck? And the Danger of Mouse says act. Another beep team. Thing I got to use of that beepage tonight. And then Erica Ehrlich, blankets for the children. Erica, you're part of the Ehrliches? I was taught by one of the Ehrliches at St. Peter's College. He taught art, I think. And I think they were part of the Ehrliches that are part of the singing Ehrliches. Anyway, thanks for the super chat, Erica, and we will put that to the total. All right, Chewy, that's it from me, I think, sir. Anything else you want to get out there before?
Yeah, no, I got nothing left in the tank. It's not ice time.
Yeah, I tell you what, man, that bloody Brian Tamaki videoing today did my head in. I think I'm gonna see if HR can give me a day off tomorrow. Who do I speak to in HR to get a day off tomorrow?
The more I see about this Brian Tamaki fella, the more I don't think he's a good dude.
Maybe he's had it too hard for too long. Just pulled himself up by the bootstraps. Actually, pulled himself up by everybody else's bootstraps. That's probably the fair analogy. He used all their bootstraps to pull himself up, and then he kept their bootstraps.
Every Sunday, I need 10% of your bootstraps. Thanks.
All right, guys. Actually, got a few other guests coming in through the week. I probably shouldn't say who they're going to be because when we say that, they typically fall over. But contacted by someone today who wants to.
One of them is Jesus Christ, with an absolutely ground-shaking opinion on what David Seymour said.
You know, but he cancelled because he said that he got invited to David's place for dinner, so he's going to go there instead. So, yeah, he's going to teach David how to feed the children because apparently he was pretty good at it in his day. Ford O'Connor charged with, all right, rainbow paint over. Got you now. Well, now. I was thinking if that's what you said, but wasn't quite sure. All right, Fano, that's us for tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night. I might be seeing straight by then after giving up on Brian Tamaki with another edition of Big Hairy News.
Help us settle it debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures nation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have their hand out for rewards, while the many have to work at what they can't afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to.
Now, Chewy, just from my Māori language course, which I'm still struggling a lot with, I believe Pumari e kia korua is to two of us. Because you use korua to two people, but not including yourself. So that's specifically to the two of us, korua. I think I'll check my notes afterwards, but I think that's specifically the two of us. Just a little.
That's a gold sticker, Pat.
Thank you. It's the only
Gold
one.
star.
Most of it's not sticking, but I remember that one.
Big hairy news.
All right, team. That's us. We're done. We'll catch you tomorrow night from 9 o'clock with another edition of Big Hairy News. Thanks for being with us tonight. Hopefully tomorrow night we'll give you an update on the blanket fund, if we can call it that, and see what we have reached with last night. It depends how long it takes for those revenues to come through, but we'll do that for you. But that's it for me, Joey.
And that's it for me.
Oh, type B Wookie. Time for nuneyes.
Wookie.
Wookie nuneyes. All right, team. Catch you tomorrow. Hooroo.
Yes, fam.